The diplomatic disaster station Harmony floated in neutral space like a jewel among the stars. The massive diplomatic hub had witnessed countless treaties, trade agreements, and peace accords over its 300-year history. Today it hosted the Galactic Trade Summit, an event that brought together representatives from over 200 species to discuss commerce, resource sharing, and mutual prosperity. Ambassador Dr. Sarah Chun stood at the viewing port of the human delegation quarters, watching ships from across the galaxy dock at the station. Her reflection in the transparent steel showed a woman in her mid-50s, her dark hair streaked with gray, her eyes carrying the weight of decades of diplomatic service. Behind her, her team prepared the presentation that could change millions of lives. "The medical packages are ready for demonstration," said Dr. James Mitchell, the lead researcher on the human medical team. He held up a small crystalline device that pulsed with soft blue light. This single unit can synthesize treatments for 17 different plague variants. We can mass produce them. We can save those worlds. Sarah nodded slowly. Across the galaxy, 12 million people were dying. A mysterious plague had swept through several neutral territories, devastating populations that lacked advanced medical infrastructure. The Galactic Assembly had debated relief efforts for months, but progress was slow. Bureaucracy and political posturing had delayed action while people suffered. Humanity had developed a solution. Human medical science, often overlooked by the more ancient civilizations, had cracked the plague's genetic code. The synthesizers could be deployed within weeks. Millions of lives could be saved. All humanity asked in return was fair recognition and equal standing in galactic trade negotiations. "They will try to dismiss us again," said Ambassador Chun quietly. "They always do." Her aide, Marcus Stone, a career military officer serving in diplomatic capacity, crossed his arms. "Then we make them listen. We have what they need." "We have what the dying need," Sarah corrected. "The assembly members sitting in comfortable chambers have no plague touching their worlds. They do not feel the urgency we feel." The summit began 3 hours later in the Grand Assembly Hall. The chamber was a marvel of architectural collaboration, built with materials and techniques from dozens of species. Seating arrangements accommodated everything, from the aquatic neridians in there, fluid-filled spheres to the crystalline vex who required high radiation environments. The human delegation took their assigned seats in the outer ring. It was not lost on Sarah that humanity, despite being a spacefaring civilization for over 2 centuries, still sat with the newer, less influential species. The inner circles belonged to the old powers, the Krillian Empire, the Zetheran Collective, the Harmonious Unity, and others who had ruled the stars for millennia. High Executor, born of the Krillian Empire, commanded attention the moment he rose to speak. His species stood nearly 8 feet tall, their bodies covered in chitinous plates that gleamed like polished obsidian. 4 arms gestured dramatically as he spoke, his voice resonating through translation devices. "The Krillian Empire proposes expanded mining operations in the outer territories. Our superior extraction technology will benefit all species through increased resource availability. We require only that transport routes through neighboring systems be granted without the usual inspection protocols." Several species immediately objected. The proposed routes passed through their sovereign space. The Krillians were essentially demanding free passage without accountability. Ambassador Chun watched the debate carefully. This was typical Krillian behavior. Demand everything, negotiate down to what they actually wanted, and call it compromise. The tactic worked because the Krillians controlled significant military assets. Few species wanted to antagonize them directly. The debate continued for hours. When the human delegation finally received permission to present, the chamber was already restless. Many representatives were clearly more interested in their data tablets than in listening to another proposal. Sarah, approached the central platform with Dr. Mitchell beside her. The holographic display activated, showing three-dimensional images of the plague-affected worlds. The images were not sanitized. They showed the reality: overcrowded medical facilities, mass graves being dug, children crying beside dying parents. "Members of the Assembly," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the indifference she felt radiating from the chamber. 12 million sentient beings are dying while we debate trade routes and mining rights. Humanity has developed a solution. The display changed to show the medical synthesizers, their technical specifications, and projected deployment timelines. Dr. Mitchell explained the science in terms even non-medical species could understand. The devices were elegant, efficient, and could be produced quickly. Within 6 weeks, the plague could be contained. Within 3 months, it could be eradicated. "We offer this technology freely," Sarah continued. "We ask only for fair consideration in future trade negotiations and recognition of human medical expertise. We are not seeking profit. We are seeking to save lives." High Executor Vorn's laugh echoed through the chamber. It was not a pleasant sound. The humans believe they have solved in months what the galaxy's finest medical minds have studied for years. How charmingly naive. Several species joined in the laughter. Sarah felt her jaw tighten, but maintained her composure. "Our data is available for independent verification," Dr. Mitchell said firmly. "We invite any medical authority to review our findings." "A waste of time," Vorn replied dismissively. "Humanity is known for trade and basic engineering. Leave medicine to species with actual expertise. The Krillian Empire has medical research facilities that have existed for 10,000 years. If we have not solved this plague, it cannot be solved by crude human methodology." The chairman of the Assembly, a diplomatic Zentari named Quester Filman, raised a crystalline appendage. "Perhaps the human proposal deserves investigation. If their claims have merit, millions of lives hang in the balance. Asterisk, if their claims had merit," Vorn said slowly, each word dripping with contempt, "they would not need to beg for recognition. True advancement speaks for itself. I move that we table this discussion and return to matters of actual importance." The vote was swift and brutal. Only 17 species voted to investigate humanity's medical claims. 143 voted to table the discussion. The remainder abstained. Sarah returned to her seat, feeling the familiar bitter taste of diplomatic defeat. This was not the first time human contributions had been dismissed. Despite humanity's achievements in numerous fields, the older civilizations viewed them as upstarts, children playing at galactic politics. "We will find another way," Marcus whispered to her. "We will get those synthesizers to the affected worlds through humanitarian channels." Sarah nodded. They would have to work outside the Assembly's framework. It would take longer and be more expensive, but lives would be saved. The summit continued for 3 more days. Humanity's delegation attended every session, voting on proposals, participating in working groups, and maintaining their professional dignity despite the constant slights. They were interrupted during presentations, their votes were dismissed as irrelevant, and their expertise was questioned at every turn. On the final day of the summit, as delegates prepared to return to their respective territories, the incident occurred. The human medical shipment was being loaded onto transport vessels in Station Harmony's cargo bay. 20,000 medical synthesizers, representing months of production and billions of credits in resources. The devices were being shipped through established humanitarian corridors to the plague zones. Krillian security forces stormed the cargo bay without warning. "This shipment is contraband," declared Commander Zerix, leader of the Krillian Security Detachment. "Unauthorized medical technology violates Section 7 of the Galactic Health Protocols. All devices will be confiscated and destroyed." Dr. Mitchell stepped forward, his credentials displayed prominently. These synthesizers have been cleared through proper channels. We have all the necessary permits and authorizations. This is a humanitarian mission. Your permits are invalid, Zrix stated flatly. The Krillian Empire disputes their authenticity. Until proper verification can be obtained, which will take approximately 6 months, these devices represent a potential biosecurity threat. 6 months? Sarah had rushed to the cargo bay when she heard what was happening. People are dying now. Every day of delay costs thousands of lives. Then perhaps humanity should have followed proper protocols more carefully, Zrix replied. His mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. What happened next would be analyzed and debated across the galaxy for years to come. The Krillian forces activated industrial disintegrators and methodically destroyed every single medical synthesizer. 20,000 devices, each capable of saving hundreds of lives, were reduced to molecular dust in less than an hour. Asterisk. Sarah Chun stood watching, her hands clenched so tightly her knuckles turned white. Beside her, Dr. Mitchell wept openly. Marcus Stone's face had gone completely expressionless. A dangerous sign that Sarah recognized from their years working together. You have just murdered 12 million people, Sarah said quietly to Commander Zrix. I have enforced galactic regulations, Zrix corrected. If there were errors in protocol, blame human incompetence, not Krillian diligence. The incident was reported to the Assembly immediately. An emergency session was convened. Species from across the galaxy watched as Ambassador Chun presented evidence of the destruction, the verified permits, and the fabricated claims of protocol violations. High Executor Vorn addressed the Assembly with practiced sympathy. This unfortunate incident resulted from legitimate security concerns. The Krillian Empire regrets any confusion. However, we cannot compromise the safety protocols that protect all galactic citizens. If human procedures were unclear, that is an educational opportunity for Earth's diplomatic corps. The vote on sanctions against the Krillian Empire failed spectacularly. Only 23 species voted in favor. The rest either abstained or actively voted against any punitive measures. The official resolution called the incident a regrettable misunderstanding resulting from miscommunication between parties. No compensation was offered. No apology was issued. No accountability was demanded. Ambassador Chun stood before the Assembly one final time. Her voice was calm, almost eerily so. Humanity came to this body seeking justice. We came offering help. We came believing in the principles this Assembly claims to uphold. Today we learned the truth about galactic civilization. She paused, looking slowly around the chamber. Humanity will remember this day. We will remember who stood with us and who stood aside. We will remember that 12 million lives meant nothing to this Assembly. Nothing at all. Without waiting for dismissal, Sarah turned and walked out of the Grand Assembly Hall. The entire human delegation followed her. They boarded their ships and departed Station Harmony within 6 hours. Across human space, the response was immediate. Every human ambassador was recalled from every alien world. Every human trade vessel was ordered home. Every human colony closed its borders. The sprawling network of human commerce that had connected hundreds of systems suddenly contracted, pulling back into human territory like a wounded animal retreating to its den. The galaxy noticed, briefly. News networks reported on humanity's tantrum and overreaction. Political analysts suggested that Earth had finally accepted its minor role in galactic affairs. The consensus was that humans were sulking, that they would eventually return when economic pressures forced them to be reasonable. High Executor Vorn gave interviews explaining how this proved humanity was too emotionally unstable for serious galactic leadership. The incident was used as evidence that younger species needed more time and guidance before they could participate meaningfully in interstellar politics. On the plague-stricken worlds, 12 million people continued dying. Without the human medical synthesizers, the disease ran its course. Entire populations were devastated. Cities became graveyards. The Galactic Assembly formed committees to study the tragedy, wrote reports about lessons learned, and moved on to other business. But in human space, something was happening. Something the galaxy would not understand until it was far too late. Deep in classified facilities across Earth and her colonies, Protocol Phoenix was activated. This was not a protocol the galaxy knew existed. It was humanity's contingency plan, developed quietly over decades, refined through centuries of being underestimated and dismissed. Military shipyards that the galaxy believed produced only cargo vessels began retooling. Research facilities that supposedly focused on civilian technology revealed hidden projects. Defense networks that seemed basic and outdated proved to be deliberately misleading. Humanity had always possessed the capability to be more than merchants and engineers. They had simply never seen a reason to show their teeth. They had believed in diplomacy, in cooperation, in the possibility of genuine interstellar community. The destruction of the medical shipment, the deaths of 12 million innocents, and the Assembly's complete indifference had taught humanity a harsh lesson. In this galaxy, justice was not given. It was taken. Respect was not earned through peace. It was commanded through strength. For 6 months, human space remained silent. Ships that ventured too close to human borders were turned away without explanation. Communication requests went unanswered. Trade proposals were ignored. The galaxy assumed humanity was simply fading into irrelevance. Accepting their place at the margins of galactic civilization, they were catastrophically wrong. Admiral Marcus Stone, no longer playing at diplomacy, stood on the bridge of the warship Retribution and watched the countdown reach 0. Around him, the command crew worked with practiced efficiency. These were not politicians or merchants. These were soldiers, and they had been preparing for this moment for months. All fleets report ready, his tactical officer announced. Asterisk, Ambassador Chun sends her regards, Marcus said quietly. Signal all ships. Operation Phoenix is go. Across human space, 300 warships engaged their jump drives simultaneously. When they emerged, they would emerge in Krillian territory, and the galaxy would finally learn what humanity could do when peaceful options were exhausted. The time for words had ended. The response was about to begin. Asterisk, the response that shook the stars. The Krillian Empire stretched across 47 star systems, a dominion built over 6,000 years of conquest and consolidation. Their military might was legendary, their fleets feared, their technology considered among the most advanced in the galaxy. High Executor Vorn sat in his command chamber on the imperial capital world of Krillix Prime, reviewing reports of continued expansion into disputed territories. 6 months had passed since the incident with the humans at Station Harmony. Vorn had almost forgotten about it. The matter had been so minor, so inconsequential. Humanity had retreated into their isolated corner of space, exactly as expected. The galaxy had moved on. The first indication that something was wrong came at 0347 Standard Galactic Time. Commander's Rix, the same officer who had destroyed the human medical shipment, was overseeing a routine patrol near the Krillian colony world of Tornax 4 when his sensors registered impossible readings. Dozens of jump signatures appeared simultaneously at the system's edge. The energy output was massive, far beyond what Krillian technology could produce. Identify those vessels, Zrix ordered, his multiple arms working the tactical displays. The sensor officer's voice cracked with confusion. Commander, the signatures match no known configuration. Ship profiles are. They appear to be human vessels, but the size and power readings are inconsistent with any recorded human capabilities. Zrix felt a cold sensation spreading through his thorax. Visual confirmation now. The main display filled with an image that made every Krillian on the bridge freeze. Ships emerged from jump space with predatory grace. These were not the cargo haulers and modest exploration vessels humanity was known for. These were warships, sleek and angular, their hulls absorbing light like hungry shadows. Weapon ports glowed with barely contained energy. The ships moved with purpose and precision. That spoke of military excellence. There were 47 of them surrounding Tornax. 4. Exactly one ship for each system in the Krillian Empire. They are hailing us, the communications officer reported, his voice barely above a whisper. The display changed to show a human male in a dark military uniform. His face was hard, his eyes cold. Behind him, the bridge of his ship hummed with advanced technology that made Krillian systems look primitive. "I am Admiral Marcus Stone of the United Earth Defense Fleet," the human said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Commander Zrix, we remember you. We remember what you did at Station Harmony. We remember every medical synthesizer you destroyed. We remember every life your actions cost." Zrix felt his breathing quicken. "This is Krillian sovereign space. Your presence here is an act of war." "Yes," Marcus agreed simply. "It is." Before Zrix could respond, every human warship fired simultaneously. The weapons they used were unlike anything in galactic arsenals. Coherent graviton beams that warped space itself. Quantum disruptors that phased through conventional shields. Plasma lances that burned with the heat of newborn stars. Asterisk, the Krillian defense platforms surrounding Tornax. 4 lasted 17 seconds. The orbital shipyards lasted 32 seconds. The military command station managed to survive for almost a full minute. Before its shields collapsed and its structure came apart, not a single shot struck civilian infrastructure. Every target was purely military. The precision was surgical, the execution flawless. Asterisk. "This is your only warning," Admiral Stone said as Zrix's ship drifted powerless, its engines destroyed, its weapons offline. "Withdraw all military forces from the outer territories. Stand down all offensive operations. Await further instructions." The transmission ended. The human fleet disappeared back into jump space as quickly as they had arrived, leaving Tornax 4's military completely neutralized, but its civilian population untouched. Identical scenarios played out across 47 Krillian systems simultaneously. In the span of 1 hour, the Krillian Empire's military infrastructure was reduced by 60%. Shipyards were destroyed. Defense platforms were obliterated. Command stations were disabled. Ammunition depots were vaporized and through it all. Not a single civilian casualty was reported. High Executor Vorn received the reports in his command chamber, watching in growing horror as the scope of the attack became clear. This was not possible. Humanity was weak. They were traders and engineers. They had no military tradition, no warrior culture, no capacity for this level of coordinated violence. "Deploy the Grand Fleet," Vorn ordered, his 4 arms gesturing frantically. "Converge all available forces on the human border. We will crush them before they can strike again." The Grand Fleet was the pride of the Krillian Empire. 300 warships, each crewed by warriors who had trained their entire lives for combat. They represented the pinnacle of Krillian military might. They assembled at Rally Point Gamma, a strategic system that controlled access to multiple jump routes. The fleet commander, Grand Admiral Fexus, reviewed the tactical data with growing unease. The human attack had demonstrated capabilities that should not exist. Their weapons, their coordination, their intelligence gathering, all of it pointed to a level of military sophistication that contradicted everything the galaxy knew about humanity. "Maintain defensive formation," Fexus ordered. Wait for them to come to us. Use our superior numbers. The human fleet arrived 6 hours later. But they did not arrive where Thexus expected. They did not emerge at the system's edge and advance toward the Krillian position. Instead, they appeared in 3 groups, positioned perfectly to create a triangular kill zone with the Krillian Grand Fleet at its center. Admiral Stone's face appeared on every Krillian ship's communication screen simultaneously. Behind him, tactical displays showed the Krillian fleet's positions, their shield frequencies, their weapon capabilities. Information that should have been encrypted, secured, impossible to obtain. "We have been watching you for 200 years, Marcus said quietly. Every ship design, every tactical doctrine, every weakness in your technology. We know you better than you know yourselves. Fire." Thexus roared. All ships fire at will. The Krillian fleet unleashed everything they had. Thousands of weapons fired in a coordinated barrage that would have destroyed any conventional fleet. The space between the human and Krillian, ships filled with deadly energy. The human ships moved. They did not dodge conventionally. They phased, their quantum drives allowing them to shift slightly out of normal spacetime. The Krillian weapons passed through the space where the human ships should have been, and struck nothing but vacuum dot. Then the human ships returned fire. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 8 minutes. Human weapons struck with impossible accuracy. Krillian shields, designed to withstand conventional attacks, offered no resistance to weapons that operated on principles the Krillians did not understand. Ships did not explode. They simply ceased functioning, their systems disabled, their crews left alive but helpless. When it was over, the entire Krillian Grand Fleet drifted powerless. Not destroyed, not obliterated, but completely neutralized. Rescue beacons were already activating. Life support systems remained functional. The humans had taken the galaxy's most feared military force and turned it into floating debris without killing a single warrior. "Consider this mercy," Admiral Stone said, his image appearing one final time on Thexus's darkened bridge. "We could have destroyed you. We chose not to. Remember that when you consider your next actions." The galaxy watched in stunned disbelief as news of the battle spread. Within 24 hours, every major news network was broadcasting footage of the engagements. The images were clear and undeniable. Humanity, the species that had been dismissed and mocked, possessed military technology decades beyond anything the established powers could field. The Galactic assembly convened in emergency session. The chamber that had been so dismissive of humanity 6 months ago was now filled with fear and confusion. "How is this possible?" demanded the Zetheran representative, his tentacles writhing with agitation. Human military capabilities were assessed as minimal. Their fleet was supposed to consist primarily of converted civilian vessels. Quester Philman, the Zentari chairman, displayed images on the central hologram. It appears those assessments were deliberately misleading. Human space contains shipyards we never knew existed, research facilities that were hidden from galactic observation, defense networks that pretended to be far more primitive than they actually were. "They lied to us," the Harmonious Unity delegate said, their crystalline form pulsing with indignation. "Asterisk, no," came a familiar voice. Ambassador Dr. Sarah Chun walked into the chamber, her presence causing immediate silence. She had not set foot in this hall since walking out 6 months ago. "We simply never told you everything. There is a difference." She approached the central platform with the same calm dignity she had always displayed, but now every representative watched her with new eyes. This was not a minor ambassador from a lesser species. This was a human, and humans had just proven they were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. "For 2 centuries, Sarah began, humanity has sought peaceful integration into galactic civilization. We shared our discoveries. We traded fairly. We asked only for respect and equal treatment. What did we receive in return? The chamber remained silent. We were mocked, Sarah continued. We were dismissed. Our contributions were belittled. Our expertise was questioned. And when we tried to save 12 million lives, our efforts were destroyed, and the galaxy did nothing. High Executor Vorn, who had traveled to the Assembly to demand action against humanity, stood from his seat. You have attacked sovereign Krillian territory without provocation. You have destroyed military assets. This is an act of war that demands response. Sarah turned to face him directly. Her expression was not angry. It was something far more frightening. It was completely calm. Without provocation? She repeated softly. Commander Zrix destroyed medical equipment that would have saved millions of lives. You personally blocked any investigation or accountability. You used your influence to ensure the Krillian Empire faced no consequences. You believed that because humanity had always chosen peace. We were incapable of anything else. Asterisk, she walked closer to Vorn. And despite his superior size and strength, the High Executor found himself taking a step backward. You confused patience with weakness, Sarah said. You mistook mercy for inability. You believed that because we did not show our strength, we did not possess it. The Assembly will not tolerate human aggression, Vorn declared. But his voice lacked its usual confidence. The Assembly will do exactly what it did 6 months ago, Sarah replied. Nothing. Because you now understand what humanity is capable of, and you do not want us as enemies. She turned to address the entire chamber. The Krillian Empire's military has been neutralized. Not destroyed, neutralized. We could have killed every warrior in their fleets. We chose not to. Because despite everything, despite the contempt you have shown us, humanity still believes that life has value. The central hologram changed to show detailed images of what had occurred in Krillian space. The precision strikes. The careful avoidance of civilian casualties. The disabled but intact warships with their crews alive. Asterisk. We are establishing what we call remembrance zones in the former Krillian outer territories, Sarah announced. These regions will be administered by human forces. They will be dedicated to humanitarian aid, medical services, and assistance to any species that needs help. The medical synthesizers that were destroyed, we have produced 2 million of them. They are being distributed freely to any world suffering from plague or disease. She paused, letting that information sink in. We are not conquerors. We are not interested in empire. But we are finished being dismissed. We are finished being mocked. And we are finished standing by while injustice occurs. The Zetheran representative found his voice. What are humanity's demands? What do you want from the galaxy? We want what we have always wanted, Sarah replied. Fair treatment, equal voice, and a galaxy where justice actually means something. The Assembly failed in its most basic duty to protect innocent life. That ends now. She activated a data crystal, and information flowed to every representative's terminal. These are our proposed reforms to the Galactic Charter. Mandatory intervention protocols when civilian populations are threatened. Actual accountability for violations of galactic law. Equal representation regardless of species age or military strength. Protection for humanitarian missions. You cannot simply rewrite the galactic order, the Harmonious Unity delegate protested. We are not rewriting it, Sarah said. We are enforcing the principles it claims to uphold. Principles that were ignored when it was inconvenient. Principles that were abandoned when they conflicted with political interests. High Executor Vorn's voice shook with suppressed rage. And if we refuse? If the Krillian Empire rejects these demands? Admiral Marcus Stone appeared on the communication screen, his image transmitted from the flagship Retribution. Then humanity will continue doing what we started. We will systematically dismantle every military asset the Krillian Empire possesses. We will enforce peace whether you choose it willingly or not. That is tyranny, Vorn said. No, Marcus replied. Tyranny is destroying medicine meant for dying children because it suits your political agenda. Tyranny is using military strength to avoid accountability for genocide. What we are offering is justice. Accept it peacefully, or we will deliver it forcefully. The choice is yours. The assembly session continued for 18 hours. Species debated, argued, and eventually accepted reality. Humanity now possessed the strongest military force in known space. They had proven their willingness to use it. But more importantly, they had demonstrated restraint that the old powers had never shown. The reforms passed. Not because the assembly agreed with them philosophically, but because refusing them meant facing human military action. It was pragmatism dressed as progress, but it was progress nonetheless. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy adjusted to its new reality. Human fleets patrolled the remembrance zones, protecting them from piracy and aggression. Medical teams from Earth deployed to plague-stricken worlds, distributing synthesizers freely. Infrastructure that had been destroyed in the Krillian territories was rebuilt with human assistance. The species living in the remembrance zones, expecting oppression and exploitation, instead found themselves better off than they had been under Krillian rule. Food was abundant. Medical care was available. Education was provided. Local governments were respected as long as they governed fairly. On Tornax 4, a young Krillian named Vexus stood in the rebuilt medical facility, watching human doctors work alongside local physicians. Her mother had been saved by a human medical synthesizer, cured of a disease that would have killed her under the old system. I do not understand humans, Vexus said to the human nurse coordinator. You defeated us. Why are you helping us? The nurse, a woman named Patricia Chun, distant cousin to Ambassador Sarah Chun, smiled gently. Because you are people. Because you did not choose your government's actions. Because showing mercy is not the same as being weak. 6 months after the human response began, High Executor Vorn was removed from power by the Krillian Senate. The Empire, reduced to its core systems and prohibited from military expansion, began the difficult process of rebuilding its relationship with the galaxy. It was humbling. It was painful. But it was necessary. Vorn himself was tried for the destruction of the medical shipment. The trial was conducted by an independent tribunal, not by humans, but by neutral species. The evidence was reviewed. The testimony was heard. The verdict was guilty of crimes against sentient life. His sentence was unusual. Instead of imprisonment or execution, Vorn was required to serve in the medical facilities of the remembrance zones. For 10 years, he would work directly with the people he had harmed through his actions. He would see the faces of those he had condemned to death. He would understand the cost of his arrogance. On the 1-year anniversary of the response, Ambassador Sarah Chun stood before the Galactic Assembly once more. The chamber was different now. Human representatives sat in the inner circle. Their voice carried equal weight. Their proposals received serious consideration. 1 year ago, Sarah began, 12 million people died because this assembly valued politics over justice. Today, because humanity refused to accept that outcome, those deaths have meaning. They sparked a change that will prevent similar tragedies. She looked around the chamber at the representatives from hundreds of worlds. We do not claim to be perfect. We do not claim to have all the answers. But we do claim the right to be heard. We claim the right to equal treatment. And we claim the responsibility to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Humanity could have conquered this galaxy, she continued. Our military capabilities made that possible. But conquest was never our goal. We wanted partnership. We wanted community. We still want those things. The difference now is that we will accept nothing less. The Assembly voted unanimously to establish the new protocols. The reforms became galactic law. And slowly, carefully, the galaxy began to change. Admiral Marcus Stone retired from active military service and accepted a position as Earth's Chief of Galactic Defense. He oversaw the integration of human forces into peacekeeping operations across multiple sectors. His ships, once symbols of fearsome human military might, became symbols of protection and stability. Dr. James Mitchell's medical synthesizers saved over 80 million lives in the first year of distribution. His work earned him nominations for every major scientific award in the galaxy. He accepted none of them, saying that the lives saved were reward enough. And in a quiet office on Earth, in a building overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, Sarah Chun compiled her memoirs. She wrote about the years of frustration, the constant struggle for recognition, the heartbreak of watching millions die needlessly. But she also wrote about the response, about the moment humanity stopped asking for justice and started enforcing it, about the day the galaxy learned that human patience, while vast, was not infinite. The final entry in her memoir became famous across 1,000 worlds. We were peaceful because we chose to be, not because we had no other option. We were patient because we believed in diplomacy, not because we lacked strength. We were kind because we valued life, not because we were naive about the universe's cruelty. The galaxy mistook all of these choices for weaknesses. They learned, painfully and irrevocably, that they were wrong. Humanity will always prefer peace. But we will never again allow others to confuse our preference for peace with an inability to wage war. We are kind. We are patient. We are peaceful. But we are also, when necessary, unstoppable. Remember the 12 million. Remember what their deaths taught the galaxy. And remember that humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our technology. It is our refusal to become the monsters that others tried to make us. The galaxy remembered. And it never made the same mistake again. Asterisk.